severe attacks my members face would be headlines. If it was a police officer, rightly so, I've got a problem with that. But we're a law enforcement agency on the front line as well. The fact that we're hidden behind a big grey wall shouldn't affect the headlines. We need the public support, which we're getting, and we need the media to keep reporting on this and highlighting the issues we face. So we get that investment, so we increase our staffing levels, and so we get the vital protections that we need.
Motions are going on for today for the drones to be stopped in the prison. We fully support that for the safety of our staff members. I hope the government brings some legislation to stop these drones coming into the prison before a staff member is badly hurt, injured, or I don't want to say more than losing a life for somebody, to bring this motion into implementation.
There's those big drones that you can get helicopter wise that people can sit in, but I've seen on the internet that you've got drones where people can just hang on for a bit and just be pulled over to the wall. So you think, for me, maybe firearms and things like that what might come in at some point, but for me, you think yourself, the possibility that someone could just get lifted over a fence, it is going to happen sooner rather than later, I believe.
It's kind of, again, it's something that a lot of people in the room are you sort of jaws on the floor sometimes when emotions are being spoke on. The protection's there, the technology is there to get these drones out of our prisons, and why are we not acting? Again, it's just falling on deaf ears. What is it going to take? Like I say, we've had the 2 gun scares. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for someone to die? And I say I spoke on a motion speaking about one of my colleagues. He suffered quite a bad assault, and I remember thinking then, this is it. It's going to change now. This has happened, so we'll see some change, and it still hasn't, and we're still waiting to see the impacts of this, and I say they're just not listening. I remember sitting in this conference last year when we've had Phil Coppell on stage and Amy Reese on stage telling us about how they take our safety seriously, but yet the measures we're asking for, it's taken a member of staff to get, or 3 members of staff to get quite seriously assaulted for you to turn around and go, actually, we need to implement this change.
There is so much contraband running around the prisons. It's always easy to do the default with, it's staff bringing it in, because that's the easy escape. The truth is, there is corrupt staff out there, but there are not nearly enough corrupt staff to get them out of contraband that's in the prisons. And what really disgusts me is there's technology out there. With my military experience, I know that there's something called electronic countermeasures, ECM, which will block the signals. But not only will it block the signals of the drones bringing stuff in, it will block the signals of the phones. And if you block the signals of the phone, they can't organise these stuff to come in. They can't threaten and intimidate staff with knowledge from outside the prison, such as from staff's details to try and intimidate staff to bring stuff in. It won't happen, because the only way they can communicate with people outside is through letters and through phone calls, which are monitored. Both are monitored, and it could resolve so many issues in the prison system. But no, do you know why they don't want to do it? Because it's costing too much money, and because it's going to cost too much money, that means our members are at risk with weapons, with drugs. Yes, prisoners take drugs, but that doesn't mean it's just them getting high in a cell. It means then you've got the bullying, you've got the debts. You then got, well, if you want to pay off your debts, Officer Joe Bloggs over there didn't think I didn't want. I want you to assault him. So they go off and assault somebody, or they're high on drugs, they're non-compliant, they end up getting restrained, and because they've got no pain compliance, and they've got super strength because they're high on drugs, our staff get injured trying to control and restrain them. The issues from drones and from mobile phones is so big, and it can be resolved with technology that they had in Northern Ireland in the 80s, but yet we still haven't got it in the prison system. That's what I find frustrating and angry with the lack of action from our government.
It's a changing service, and I think everyone's up for a hard challenge. And when I joined, it was a career. What we're finding at Style, within 2 years now, they're just leaving. The turnover is huge. We were just once Sleepy Hollow. Once you got to Style, lovely little H&P, female, and now the turnover's huge. It's not a career anymore. People aren't staying. Yeah.
I've gone home sometimes and been that sort of fuddled in my head, so to speak, that I've not eaten. I've just had to sit and have some quiet time because you think to yourself, it just gets that much inside your head. And also physically, I go home and I'm tired. Sometimes I'm going to bed at like 8 o'clock. When you finish at 6:30 and you think you have an hour and a half, and I'm going back because I'm physically drained.
I don't think they appreciate the stress that we go through on a daily basis. If you're in a very busy jail like I was at Nottingham and there's a lot of alarm bells, you're up and down all the time, very much like the fire service. So they don't take into account that effect that it has on you. And also the mental stress, the things that we see, the self-harm, the violence, the deaths in custody, none of that's taken into consideration. And no one wants a career of 40 years having to deal with that.
We were approached by Laura Wright, who's a forensic psychologist, and she was concerned that there hadn't been any research into post-traumatic stress disorder amongst prison officers for a very long time. She approached the POA and asked us for our support regarding this report, and we encouraged our members to take part in it. And it's as a result of this now we intend to take that forward with HMPPS and make them aware actually of how many of our members are suffering from PTSD.
It's recognising that I suppose staff are working in a dangerous environment. There's ways that we can hopefully improve that, but perhaps it's a risk that we can never completely hope to remove, and therefore it's important that I guess we recognise that risk of post-traumatic stress isn't rare, and that we almost expect it and kind of plan for it and not normalise it in a sort of negative sense, but have it that actually this is something that we're prepared for staff experiencing, and we know what to look out for, and we know how to work with the staff who might be struggling with that.
Yeah, we've just had the Friends event regarding PTSD and its prevalence amongst prison officers, and it was quite interesting and quite shocking actually to find out that 51% of the people who took part in the survey showed symptoms and indicators of post-traumatic stress disorder. This was completely different to other occupations such as police, the armed forces and ambulance service, which were significantly lower figures.
Violence, the unsafe working practices, not having the PPE, it's a bit frightening.
We've got quite a few people that have left the service from Wetherby due to the harsh impacts of being assaulted and seeing assaults on a almost daily basis.
And we're stressed, we're burnt out, we're reaching the end. Yeah, we have got members suffering with PTSD, we have got members suffering with work-related stress, but the employer doesn't seem to want to recognise that until they've paid someone else to come in, look at it, get around the prison, speak to a few people, and then later on down the line accepting, people are suffering. We know that. We've got to start listening to the union, and that's what we're here to do, aren't we?
Our main role is to come in, do a good day's work and actually leave. And at the moment, when you've got staff who are spending half the time just watching the back, you can't concentrate. And we need to get away from this, which has been created over the past few years with cutbacks, them and us, because that's what it's become. Because gone are the days where you could sit down and you can have a chat to the lads and all that and build that bit of rapport with them. Now it's we haven't got time to do it, and all that goes, and that's when your suspicion builds, and you better be careful of him, sort of stuff, and it just builds a divide. And we need to get back to the stage where we're interacting, work with these lads.
To be honest, in the female estate, our drug problem, it's not like the male estate, I've got to admit, and again the violence at a female estate is nothing like the male estate. Ours is more self-harm, mental health. Some of our women are poorly, nowhere to put them in society, so let's put them in a prison where they'll be safe. And again, we're not trained for these mental health, we're just not, but they'll tell you, we'll put ME they call, and psychologists will write these MEs for individual women. Reality is, the majority of the women are on MEs. I can't remember every ME for every individual woman when I'm coming to deal with them, so it's difficult, it's a challenge every day.
There's too many good staff and long season staff that's leaving, and like Mark says, we don't want to lose good people, but that is what's happening. We are losing good people because we don't look after them. We don't deal with family problems either. So people that's had a loss in the family, or they're having a traumatic thing with a loved one's health concern, the service is not bothered. The service is not bothered. Their go-to stance is, we employ you, not your family. And good people are leaving when, if they'd had that support, they'd be able to stay in the job.
So one of our main findings was that staff were exposed to quite high levels of potentially traumatic incidents, and they also reported experiencing quite high levels of symptoms that might be associated with post-traumatic stress. And what we found was that this was a result that was significant kind of across all different groups of staff. And one of the key things that predicted this was around frustrations at work and the impact of those challenges in relationships with managers or support at work influence that experience of post-traumatic stress.
Vindicates a hell of a lot of stuff that we are campaigning on. For example, 68 is too late. But actually it also shows within that report that lack of management support is a big contributor to staff having PTSD. We have an attendee at conference this afternoon, Jennifer Rademacher, who's just recently done the report into bullying and lack of support by managers and from managers. And this is just another vindication of what we've been trying to tell our employees for a long time.
Well, when I first started there, I had so much experience to just mither, really, all the time. Can I do this? I was asking for that. And you had the experience who guided you. I'm now in a situation, like, I'm classed as a dinosaur now, and there's probably 5 of us who've got between 5 and 10 years over, and that's it. The rest are all under 2 years staff. So they don't have the support. I don't think the training is as good as what I went on to. And I don't think once you come into a jail and start living it and see the self-harm, because it is disturbing, and you know, nobody knows how you're going to react. No school will teach you how you're going to react, and you know, some of these kids are kids and they're seeing, like, I don't know, self-harm cuts, like, I'm going through arteries and it's pumping, or you've gone to a cell and someone's blue because of hanging. You know, you just don't get taught that. You don't get taught how to react.
I think retention's a problem throughout the country in the whole industry, not only in the prison service, in our industry. It's a challenging job that requires us a special kind of people to do it. So, yeah.
We've certainly got the general public on our side after those horrific assaults at Franklin by a terrorist prisoner. Now is the time to clamp down and regain control of our prisons, because they are in chaos, and the chaos is no fault of staff. We've had decades of underinvestment from successive governments. That has to change. I know prisons are not vote winners, but prisons are an integral part of our national security. We have brave prison officers on the front line who protect society day in, day out. They are now at imminent risk, so we need to protect them, and the only people who can do that are the government, and the only way they can do that is to listen to the people on the front line and their voice, which is the POA.